I died for 8 minutes and 42 seconds on a Tuesday afternoon in Phoenix General Hospital. During those 8 minutes, I met Jesus Christ, but not as the paintings in Sunday school showed him. He appeared as a gray extraterrestrial being with luminous silver skin and eyes that held entire galaxies of compassion. What he revealed to me about death, consciousness, and the true nature of reality will shatter everything you've been taught to fear about dying. Before this story ends, you'll understand why death is not the end, but a doorway. You'll discover why Jesus can take any form he chooses and why he often appears in ways your churches never prepared you for. You'll learn why the beings we call aliens are actually our guides through dimensions that religion tried to hide from you. If you're ready to hear the truth about what happens when we die, if you're tired of living in fear of the inevitable, if you want to know why consciousness is eternal and love transcends every boundary, including death itself, subscribe to Stories of Light and activate that notification bell. Because what happened to me, Dr. Marcus Rivera, in Trauma Bay 3, will prove that you are not your body. You are not going to some distant heaven. You are eternal consciousness, and the journey after death is more beautiful than anything you've imagined. Now let me tell you how I discovered this truth.
March 17th, 2024. 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I was doing what I'd done for 28 years, trying to save a life that was slipping away. Gunshot wound to the chest, 22-year-old male, bleeding out on the table in Trauma Bay 3. My hands moved automatically, chest compressions, intubation orders, blood transfusion. I'd done this dance 1,000 times. That's when the pain hit. Not the patient's pain, mine. A crushing sensation across my chest, like someone had wrapped my heart in barbed wire and was twisting. My left arm went numb. Cold sweat broke out across my forehead. I knew exactly what was happening because I diagnosed it hundreds of times in others. Massive myocardial infarction. The Widowmaker. Complete blockage of the left anterior descending artery. I was having a heart attack. "Dr. Rivera?" Nurse Martinez's voice seemed far away. "Are you okay?" I wasn't okay. The trauma bay tilted sideways. My knees buckled. The last thing I heard was Dr. Chen shouting, "Code Blue! We need a crash cart! Marcus is down!" Then I was gone. But I wasn't gone. I was floating near the ceiling, looking down at my own body collapsed on the floor. I watched Dr. Chen, my colleague, my friend, start chest compressions on me. I saw Martinez cut open my shirt. I heard the defibrillator charging. This can't be real, I thought. This is oxygen deprivation, dying brain creating final hallucination. But it felt more real than anything I'd ever experienced. I felt a pulling sensation, like a gentle tide drawing me away from the trauma bay. A tunnel of light opened before me, and yes, I know how cliché that sounds. I'd read the near-death experience literature. I dismissed it all as neurochemical phenomena. DMT release, hypoxia hallucinations, the brain's last desperate attempt to make sense of its own shutdown. But this was different. This was undeniable. This was more vivid than waking life. I surrendered to the pull and let the light take me. When the movement stopped, I found myself in a space that defied description. It wasn't a room exactly, but it had boundaries. It wasn't empty, but there was nothing physical there. It felt like a waiting area, a threshold between worlds. And I was not alone. 3 beings stood before me. They were approximately 4.5 feet tall, with slender builds and disproportionately large heads. Their skin had a luminous silver-gray quality that seemed to emit its own soft light. But it was their eyes that stopped me. Enormous, almond-shaped, completely black, yet somehow radiating warmth and intelligence that made human eyes seem dim by comparison. Gray aliens. I was looking at gray aliens. The rational part of my brain, the part trained in medical school, the part that had spent 30 years in emergency medicine, screamed that this was impossible. But a deeper part of me, a part I'd long suppressed, recognized them. The being in the center stepped forward, and I heard a voice in my mind, not sound, something deeper than sound. Dr. Marcus Rivera, welcome, but you cannot stay. It is not your time. I tried to speak, but I had no mouth, no vocal cords. Yet somehow I could communicate. What is this? Where am I? Who are you? You are in the transition space, the threshold between physical density and what comes next. We are guides. Your species calls us by many names: angels, spirit beings, extraterrestrials. We exist beyond physical limitation to assist transitioning consciousness. Am I dead? Your body has ceased functioning, yes, but you, consciousness, awareness, a part that is truly Marcus, you are very much alive. You have always been alive. You will always be alive. My rational mind rebelled. This is hypoxia. My brain is dying. Neurons firing randomly. This isn't real. The being tilted its head, an almost human gesture that felt both alien and familiar. If this is merely dying brain chemistry, how do you know that Dr. Chen just administered the second dose of epinephrine? How do you know that Nurse Martinez dropped the ambu bag 3 minutes ago? How do you know your wife Rebecca just arrived in the waiting room wearing a blue cardigan and sitting in the third chair from the door? I froze. I couldn't know those things. My body was flatlined. I had no sensory input, no way to gather that information. Unless you are beginning to understand, the being transmitted gently. Consciousness is not produced by the brain. The brain is a receiving device, like a radio receiving a signal. The signal continues even when the radio breaks. Before I could process this, the light in the space intensified. A warmth I'd never felt flooded through me. Not physical warmth, but something deeper. A presence that felt like coming home after a lifetime of exile. Another figure appeared. He was similar in form to the gray beings, the same general shape, the same luminous quality. But something about him was different. His eyes held a depth that seemed to contain all of human history. His presence radiated love so profound that it brought me to my knees, or would have done if I had had knees. And I knew who he was. I knew with a certainty that transcended logic or reason. Jesus, I whispered in my mind. Yes, Marcus, I am the one your species calls Jesus of Nazareth, though as you can see, I am not quite what the paintings depicted.
My name is Dr. Marcus Rivera, and until that Tuesday afternoon, I had everything figured out. I graduated top of my class from Johns Hopkins Medical School. I'd completed my residency at Massachusetts General. For 28 years, I'd worked in Level 1 trauma centers, first in Boston, then in Phoenix. I was good at my job, maybe too good. I'd seen things that would break most people. Children dying from preventable accidents, teenagers bleeding out from gang violence, elderly patients giving up after decades of fighting. I'd personally witnessed over 2,000 deaths, and in all those deaths, I never once saw evidence of a soul leaving the body. No white light, no peaceful transition, just biological systems failing in predictable sequences. Heart stops, brain oxygen depletes, electrical activity ceases. Lights out, nothing more. I became a convinced materialist. Consciousness, I believed, was nothing more than an emergent property of neurological complexity. When the brain died, consciousness ended. No heaven, no hell, no afterlife. Just the same peaceful oblivion we experienced before birth. This belief was reinforced by my personal tragedy. Her name was Lisa. We met in medical school. She was studying oncology, I was in emergency medicine. We fell in love over cadaver dissection labs and 3 a.m. study sessions. We got married the year after graduation in a small ceremony in her parents' garden. We had 12 beautiful years together. Then came the diagnosis: stage 3 breast cancer, aggressive subtype. I used every connection I had, the best oncologists, experimental trials, cutting-edge treatments that weren't even FDA approved yet. I was a doctor. I was supposed to save people. Surely I could save my own wife. Nothing worked. The cancer spread to her lymph nodes, then her lungs, then her liver. I watched the woman I loved deteriorate day by day. I held her hand through every chemo session. I whispered encouragement through every bout of nausea. I promised her we'd beat this together. We didn't beat it. Lisa died on a Wednesday morning 3 years ago. She was 49 years old. The last thing she said to me was, "Promise you'll find me again, in whatever comes next." I held her hand and lied. "I promise, I'll see you again." But I didn't believe it. I didn't believe in whatever comes next. I believed she was gone, erased, returned to the void from which we all emerged. And that lie, that final, tender lie I told my dying wife, haunted me every single day after. I threw myself deeper into work, 70-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks. I took every shift available. The hospital became my home. Saving other people's lives became my penance for failing to save hers. But underneath the workaholic exterior, I was hollowing out. The funeral reception had been held at the same church where we'd been married. People offered the usual platitudes. "She's in a better place. God needed another angel. You'll see her again in heaven." I wanted to scream at them. There is no better place. There are no angels. Heaven is a fairy tale we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. But I stayed silent. I nodded. I accepted their condolences. And I stopped believing in anything except the cold, indifferent materialism that medical science had taught me. I was raised Catholic, altar boy, Sunday school, First Communion. I believed it all once. The resurrection, the saints, the promise of eternal life. Medical school had slowly eroded that faith, and Lisa's death had obliterated what remained. If there was a God, he was either powerless or cruel. If there was an afterlife, why did death hurt so much? Why did loss feel so final? No, better to accept the truth. We're biological machines. We malfunction, we break down, we stop. And then there's nothing. This was my worldview on March 17th, 2024, when my heart stopped beating in Trauma Bay 3. This was the belief system that was about to be completely shattered.
I stared at Jesus, or whatever this being was, trying to reconcile what I was seeing with everything I thought I knew. "This doesn't make sense," I transmitted. "You're supposed to be human, Middle Eastern, carpenter from Nazareth, not this." Jesus' large eyes seemed to hold amusement and compassion in equal measure. "I was human during my incarnation 2,000 years ago, yes. A Jewish man from Galilee, exactly as your histories record. But Marcus, I am not limited to one form. I am ascended consciousness. I can appear in whatever form serves the person I'm helping." "So, you're an alien?" "I am consciousness that has transcended physical limitation. The word alien suggests foreign, separate. I am your elder sibling in the cosmic family. I have always been involved with humanity's evolution, just not always in the form your paintings and statues depict. I felt my mind, or whatever constituted my mind in this state, reeling. The gray aliens, they're connected to you?
We work together, yes. The beings you call grays, the ones your cultures call angels, the spirit guides your mystics speak of, we are all part of the same supportive network, helping consciousness evolve throughout the universe. Different roles, different appearances, same fundamental mission, guiding souls through their journey. One of the gray beings stepped forward. Dr. Rivera, we understand this is disorienting. You spent your entire adult life believing consciousness ended at death. Now you're discovering not only that consciousness continues, but that the cosmos is far more populated and purposeful than your materialist philosophy allowed. I'm hallucinating, I insisted, clinging to my scientific training. Oxygen deprivation, DMT release, dying brain, creating comforting fantasies. Jesus moved closer. Marcus, if this were hallucination, would you be receiving new information? Your body is currently on the floor of Trauma Bay 3. Dr. Chen has administered 3 doses of epinephrine. The defibrillator has been used twice. Nurse Martinez is crying. She's never seen a colleague code before. Your wife, Rebecca, just burst through the emergency department doors demanding to see you. I can't know those things. I'm unconscious. Exactly. You can't know those things with your physical senses, but you do know them because consciousness is not confined to the body or brain. You are proving to yourself right now that awareness transcends physical limitations. The weight of this hit me. He was right. I was receiving information I had no physical means of accessing. Why am I here? If I'm dead, why haven't I moved on? Why is Jesus talking to me? Because it's not your time to cross over completely, Jesus said. You have a choice to make. You can continue forward, transition to the next density of existence, or you can return to your body. But if you return, you must go back changed. You must carry this knowledge with you. What knowledge? That death is an illusion, that consciousness is eternal, and that I am not a distant deity to be worshipped, but an accessible guide walking alongside all souls. That the fear humans carry about dying is the greatest lie ever told. I felt something breaking inside me, some hardened shell I'd built around my heart after Lisa died. My wife, Lisa. I watched her die. I told her I'd see her again, but I didn't believe it. Did she just end? Or is she... Jesus' expression softened with infinite compassion. Would you like to see her? My consciousness, my soul, my awareness, whatever I was in this moment, trembled. Is she here? She has moved to a different vibrational level, yes, but for you, in this moment, the barriers can be thinned. The space around us seemed to shimmer, and then she was there. Lisa. Not sick Lisa, not the gaunt, exhausted woman I'd watched waste away in hospice. This was Lisa as she truly was, radiant, whole, more alive than she had ever been in physical form. She glowed with the same luminous quality as the gray beings, but I could still recognize every feature I'd loved. Marcus, she said, and her voice was music. Oh, Marcus, I'm so sorry you've been carrying all that pain. Lisa, is it really you? It's really me. I'm okay, better than okay. I tried to reach you after I died. I tried so many times, but your grief was like a wall I couldn't penetrate. I thought you were gone. I thought you were just erased. I graduated, Marcus, finished my lessons in physical form, and moved to the next level. You couldn't save me because it wasn't your job to save me. I chose when to leave. I completed what I came to do. But you were so young. We had so much left. In physical years, yes, but the soul doesn't measure time the way bodies do. I'm continuing my journey in a different form now. And Marcus? She moved closer, and I felt her presence like warm sunlight. I never blamed you for not saving me. I only ever felt your love. That's all that matters. That's all that ever matters. Love doesn't end when bodies do. I broke. Whatever constituted crying in this dimension, I did it. 28 years of materialist armor shattered. 3 years of suppressed grief poured out. I'm so sorry, I sobbed. I'm so sorry I told you that lie, that I'd see you again. I didn't believe it. I thought I was comforting you with a beautiful fiction. But it wasn't a lie, Lisa said gently. You are seeing me again, right now. And you'll see me again, many times, in dreams, in synchronicities, in moments when the veil thins. We're not separated, Marcus. We never were. Only the illusion of separation exists. Jesus placed a hand on what would have been my shoulder. This is why you're here, Marcus. You need to return to your body and teach others what you now know. Death is not the enemy. It's a doorway. And consciousness, the real you, never dies.
Even seeing Lisa, even experiencing this impossible reality, part of my mind fought back. 28 years of scientific training doesn't disappear easily. This could still be explained neurologically, I argued. The brain creates elaborate experiences during shutdown. Memories of Lisa combined with hypoxia-induced hallucinations. The gray beings are archetypal images from collective unconscious. There are papers about this. Jesus interrupted gently. Tell me, Marcus, in those papers about near-death experiences, did any of them explain how the unconscious brain receives accurate information about events happening in real time outside its sensory range? Well, no, but Dr. Chen is about to say we're losing him in exactly 3 seconds. Listen. I became aware again of my body far below. Dr. Chen's voice echoed up. We're losing him, charging to 360. How? I whispered. Because consciousness is not in the brain, Marcus. The brain is merely the interface. You are awareness itself, temporarily focused through physical form, but not limited to it. Even if this is real, I protested, it contradicts everything. The Bible says you're seated at the right hand of God the Father, fully human and fully divine, the unique Son of God, not working alongside gray aliens as some kind of cosmic guidance counselor. Jesus' large eyes seemed to hold deep sadness. The Bible was written by humans, doing their best to explain experiences that transcended their conceptual frameworks. They used the language and metaphors available to them. Right hand of the Father describes unity with Source consciousness. But Marcus, you're also one with Source. All consciousness is. But you're supposed to be unique, the only begotten Son. I was unique in fully demonstrating what all humans can become. When I said I and the Father are one, I wasn't claiming exclusive divinity. I was revealing the truth about the nature of all consciousness. When I said you will do greater works than I have done, I meant it literally. I came to show you what you are, not to be worshipped as something you can never become. 2 Corinthians 11:14, I quoted.
Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. This could be demonic deception. You could be a demon appearing as Jesus to trick me." Jesus didn't seem offended. "If I were a demon, Marcus, would my message be about love, forgiveness, and eternal consciousness? Would I reunite you with Lisa? Would I teach you that death is not to be feared? Evil doesn't empower, it enslaves. Evil doesn't comfort, it terrifies. Look at what you're experiencing and ask yourself, does this feel like love or manipulation?" I looked at Lisa, radiant and peaceful. I felt the overwhelming compassion emanating from Jesus and the gray beings. Every cell of my being, or whatever I was in this state, recognized this as genuine. "It feels like love," I admitted quietly. "Then trust that feeling. It's your soul recognizing truth." "But why appear as a gray alien? Why not the Jesus from the paintings, from the crucifixes? Why not the form that billions of Christians would recognize?" Jesus seemed to smile, an expression that translated even through the alien features. "These paintings and statues are human artistic interpretations created centuries after my death. They're beautiful, meaningful, but not accurate to either my human appearance or my energetic essence. When I walked Galilee, I was a Middle Eastern Jewish man, dark skin, dark eyes, likely around 5.5 feet tall. Nothing like the blonde, blue-eyed, 6-foot image European artist created." He gestured to his current form. "This template you call gray alien, this is closer to my natural vibrational state when not incarnated in dense physical form. And frankly, your species needs to understand something crucial. You are not alone in the cosmos. The beings you call extraterrestrials are part of the divine plan too. Many are far more evolved than current humanity. Some, like the Greys here, work directly with me in guiding consciousness evolution across multiple worlds." One of the Grey beings added, "We have been visiting Earth for millennia. Your ancient texts call us angels, messengers, watchers. The form matters less than the function. We are consciousness helpers, regardless of what shape that consciousness temporarily wears."
"I don't understand why you're showing this to me," I said, feeling suddenly small. "I'm nobody. I'm a bitter atheist who gave up on God after my wife died. I've spent 3 years thinking your followers were delusional. I'm not worthy of this experience." Jesus moved closer, his presence radiating acceptance. "Marcus, when I walked Earth, I chose fishermen, tax collectors, prostitutes, and doubters. Thomas demanded to touch my wounds before he'd believe. Peter denied knowing me 3 times. Every single disciple abandoned me during crucifixion. Yet I chose them specifically because of their flaws, their doubts, their humanity. The broken are more open than the certain," Lisa added softly. "The ones who've lost everything are the ones who can hear what others can't. Your atheism, your pain, your doubt, these didn't disqualify you, Marcus. They prepared you." "If I go back," I said slowly, "if I survive and tell people what I experienced, I'll lose everything. My medical license, my credibility. My colleagues will think I've had a psychotic break. I'll be institutionalized or destroyed professionally. My career will be over." Jesus' expression turned somber. "I was crucified for telling truth, nailed to wood and left to suffocate slowly for claiming oneness with the divine and teaching that all humans share that divinity. You'll face ridicule, yes. Professional consequences, perhaps. But Marcus, no one's going to crucify you. The cost of truth-telling has decreased somewhat in 2,000 years." He paused. "The question isn't whether there will be cost. There's always cost.
The question is, will you pay it? Will you value truth over comfort? Will you help others awaken, even if it means sacrificing the respect of those still sleeping? The final wave hit me hardest. If this is all real, I said, voice breaking, then everything I've believed for 28 years is wrong. Every grieving family I've told they're at peace now, while thinking it was a comforting lie. Every patient I assured about heaven while believing it was fiction. I've watched 2,000 people die, and I told myself they simply ceased to exist. I stood at Lisa's grave and convinced myself she was gone forever. How do I live with that? How do I forgive myself for being so catastrophically wrong about something so important? The weight of it crushed me. 28 years of materialist certainty revealed as error. Thousands of patients whose families I could have genuinely comforted. Lisa, who died thinking I didn't believe we'd meet again. Jesus placed both hands on my shoulders, or the energetic equivalent. Marcus, listen to me carefully. You taught the deepest truth you had access to at the time. You couldn't give what you didn't have. Yes, your paradigm was incomplete, but it was honest. You never lied to comfort people. You shared what you genuinely believed. But I was wrong. You were limited by your training, by your grief, by the materialist philosophy that dominates modern medicine. But evolution isn't betrayal, Marcus. Growth isn't a repudiation of everything that came before. You're not abandoning your past self. You're becoming a larger version of who you've always been. Lisa touched my face. I felt it as warmth and light. Forgive yourself as I forgive you, as Jesus forgives you, as every soul you've ever treated forgives you. You were doing your best with what you knew. Now you know more. That's not failure, that's awakening. The gray being spoke. Guilt is a low-frequency emotion that serves no one. It keeps you trapped in past rather than empowering your future. You cannot change what you didn't know, but you can change what you do from this moment forward. Something inside me released. The guilt didn't disappear entirely, maybe it never would, but it transformed into something else. Determination, purpose, a commitment to teach what I'd learned no matter the cost. Okay, I said, whispered. Okay, I'll go back. I'll tell them. I'll try to help others understand. Jesus smiled. That's all we ask. Plant seeds. Some will grow, some won't. You're not responsible for making people believe, only for speaking truth and living it. But first, he said, there are things you need to understand about death, about consciousness, about why you're about to return to your body different than you left it.
The transition back was instantaneous and agonizing. One moment I was in that luminous space with Jesus and the gray beings. The next moment I was gasping, choking, pain screaming through every nerve as my heart remembered how to beat. "He's back," Dr. Chen's voice. "We've got a rhythm. Marcus, can you hear me?" I opened my eyes. The bright lights of Trauma Bay 3. Faces hovering over me. Chen, Martinez, 3 other nurses I recognized. 8 minutes 42 seconds, Chen said, tears in his eyes. "Marcus, you were gone. We almost lost you." My mouth was dry. My chest ached from the compressions, but my mind was crystal clear, clearer than it had been in years. "You said we're losing him at minute 7. You charged the defibrillator to 360. Martinez dropped the ambu bag at minute 4. You gave 3 doses of epinephrine." Chen's face went pale. "How could you were flatlined. There was no brain activity." "My wife, Rebecca, she's in the waiting room.
Third chair from the door. She's wearing a blue cardigan. She's crying.
Martinez's eyes went wide. Dr. Rivera, that's not possible. You couldn't know any of that. But I did know. I knew because consciousness doesn't stop when the body does. I knew because I'd been watching from outside my body. I knew because everything Jesus had told me was true. Check. Go check the waiting room. Martinez left, returned 3 minutes later, face white as paper. She's there, exactly as you described. Blue cardigan, third chair. How did you know? I closed my eyes. Because I died, and death isn't what we think it is. They made me take a week off. I refused. 3 days later, I was back in the ER against everyone's medical advice. Dr. Rivera, you had a major cardiac event, the cardiologist had protested. You need rest. You need cardiac rehab. I need to work. I need to be here. Because something had changed, something fundamental. On my second shift back, an elderly man came in, 82 years old, third heart attack, this one massive. We worked on him for 40 minutes, but I could see it was futile. His heart was giving up. And then I saw them. 3 gray beings standing beside his bed, translucent, shimmering, barely visible but unmistakably there. They weren't touching him, just waiting, patient, loving. The man's eyes suddenly opened wide, even though by all medical metrics he should have been unconscious. He was looking directly at the beings. "It's time, Harold," one of them transmitted. "I heard it. I actually heard it." "Dr. Rivera?" Nurse Sarah touched my arm. "Are you okay? You're staring at empty space." The man's vitals flatlined, but I watched. I saw a luminous form sit up from his body. Harold's soul, his consciousness, standing up like someone getting out of bed. He looked at his own body with what seemed like curiosity, then turned to the gray beings. They greeted him like old friends, embraced him, and together they walked toward a light only I could see. He was gone, but he wasn't gone. He'd transitioned. "Dr. Rivera?" Sarah again. "We need to call time of death." 4:27 p.m., I said automatically. Then quietly, "He wasn't afraid. They came for him." "Who came for him?" I looked at her. "The guides, the ones who help us cross over. He wasn't alone." Sarah's expression was concerned. "Dr. Rivera, maybe you should take more time off." "I'm fine, Sarah. Better than fine. I can see things now that I couldn't see before." And it kept happening. Over the next 2 weeks, I witnessed 6 more deaths. Every single time I saw the beings, sometimes grays, sometimes luminous figures that looked more traditionally angelic, once what appeared to be deceased relatives coming to greet the dying person. Death wasn't what I'd believed for 28 years. It wasn't cessation. It wasn't obliteration. It was graduation, transformation, homecoming. Young woman, 26 years old, came in septic, bacterial infection that had spread to her bloodstream. We started broad-spectrum antibiotics, fluids, vasopressors to maintain blood pressure. She was dying. I could see it in her labs, in her failing organs, in the way her body was shutting down despite everything we threw at it. I stood beside her bed, watching the monitors. Her mother sat on the other side, holding her daughter's hand, praying. I remembered what Jesus had shown me, the energy, the love frequency, the way consciousness could affect physical matter. "I'm going to try something," I said quietly to the mother. "It might not work, but I'd like your permission to pray with her in my own way." The mother nodded, desperate. "Anything, please, anything." I placed my hand on the young woman's forehead. I closed my eyes, and I did what Jesus had taught me in that space between worlds.
I visualized love as an actual frequency, a tangible energy. I imagined it flowing from my hand into her body, into her cells, into her immune system. I saw the bacteria dissolving. I saw her organs remembering their healthy function. I held that vision with complete certainty, not hope, not wishful thinking, but absolute knowing that healing was occurring. My hand grew warm, then hot. The temperature increase was so noticeable that the mother gasped, "Doctor, your hand is glowing." I opened my eyes. My hand was indeed emitting a faint golden light. Not metaphorical, not imagined, actual visible light. The monitor beeped. The young woman's heart rate, which had been erratic, smoothed into a strong, steady rhythm. Her blood pressure stabilized. Her oxygen saturation climbed. Over the next 6 hours, her sepsis reversed completely. The infectious disease specialist who reviewed her case said he'd never seen septic shock resolve so quickly without intervention beyond the standard protocol. "What did you do, Marcus?" he asked me. "I prayed," I said, "but probably not the kind of prayer you're thinking of." After a few weeks, my colleagues started noticing something strange. When I assessed comatose patients or people with severe brain injuries, I could predict with unsettling accuracy who would wake up and who wouldn't. Rivera just has good clinical intuition, Dr. Chen explained to a resident. 28 years of experience. But it wasn't experience, it was perception. I could see the consciousness, the soul, hovering near the body. If it was still connected, still engaged with physical form, I knew the person would wake. If the consciousness had already moved on, already made the decision to leave, I knew no amount of medical intervention would bring them back. Family members started requesting me specifically. "Dr. Rivera, please, the other doctors say there's no hope, but we need to know, is our father still in there?" I would assess. I would observe not just the medical indicators, but the energetic ones, and I would tell them the truth as gently as possible. "Yes, he's still here. Keep talking to him. He can hear you. He needs more time, but he'll come back." Or, "I'm so sorry. He's already moved on. His consciousness has left his body. Keeping the machines running won't bring him back. It's time to let go." I was right 100% of the time, every single case. 30 days after my cardiac arrest, I had my follow-up appointment with Dr. Patel, the cardiologist. He ran the full battery of tests: EKG, echocardiogram, stress test, blood work. I watched his expression grow more confused with each result. Finally, he sat me down in his office. "Marcus, I don't understand this at all." "What don't you understand?" "Your heart." He pulled up the imaging on his computer. "Look at this. This is your scan from the day of your MI. You see this? Complete occlusion of the LAD. Massive damage to the anterior wall of the left ventricle. You should have permanent scarring, reduced ejection fraction. You'd be looking at heart failure medications for life, probably an ICD placement, possibly transplant candidacy within 5 years. He pulled up another image. "This is your heart today, 30 days later." I stared at the screen. The heart muscle that should have been scarred and damaged looked perfect, healthy, better than healthy. "There's no damage," Patel said, his voice awed. "None. Your ejection fraction is 65%. That's better than normal, better than it was before your heart attack, based on your baseline echo from last year. Marcus, hearts don't heal like this. Cardiac muscle doesn't regenerate. This is... I don't have a medical explanation for this." "Maybe," I said quietly, "medical explanations aren't always enough." "What does that mean?" "It means that consciousness affects matter more than we understand. It means that the body responds to more than just pharmaceutical intervention. It means that when you change your frequency, your awareness, your belief, your understanding of reality, the physical form responds." Patel leaned back in his chair. "Marcus, you're starting to sound like one of those alternative medicine people. Maybe alternative medicine has been right about some things. Maybe we've been so focused on the materialist paradigm that we've missed half of what's actually happening in healing." He was quiet for a moment, then, What happened to you during those 8 minutes? What did you experience? I looked him in the eye. The truth about death, the truth about consciousness, the truth about who we really are. And who are we really? Eternal, multidimensional, connected to something vast and loving that your medical textbooks never mentioned.
Over the following weeks, as I integrated what I'd learned, the full scope of what Jesus and the gray beings had shown me began to crystallize. Death isn't ending, it's transition. Physical reality is one frequency of existence among many. When the body dies, consciousness shifts to a different frequency, like changing radio stations. The you that is aware continues. The personality, the memories, the essence of who you are, all of it persists. Jesus had explained it like this. Imagine a child graduating from kindergarten to first grade. To the kindergartner, leaving kindergarten feels like an ending. They cry, they cling to their teacher, they can't imagine what comes next. But from a higher perspective, it's clear they're moving to something better, richer, more expansive. Physical death is the same. From Earth perspective, it looks like a tragedy. From the soul's perspective, it's graduation. The beings we call angels, the spirits that mystics perceive, the extraterrestrials that abductees encounter, they're all part of the same cosmic support system. Different forms, different roles, but the same fundamental purpose, guiding consciousness through its evolution. The Greys work directly with transitioning souls. They're present at deaths, helping consciousness navigate the shift from physical to non-physical. They're the shepherds, the psychopomps, the ones who make sure no soul gets lost in the transition. What the Bible calls angels are simply higher dimensional beings taking forms that made sense to ancient humans. Wings, halos, shining robes, these were the interpretations available to people who'd never conceived of extraterrestrial life or multidimensional physics. Jesus didn't come to create a religion about himself. He came to demonstrate what humans can become. Every miracle he performed, healing the sick, raising the dead, walking on water, these weren't displays of unique divine power. They were demonstrations of consciousness mastery. He was showing humanity what becomes possible when you understand the true relationship between awareness and physical reality. I didn't come to be worshipped, Jesus had told me. I came to be emulated. When I said, "You will do greater works than I have done," I wasn't being modest. I was stating literal truth. Humans have the same capacities I demonstrated. You've just been taught to forget them. The resurrection wasn't a unique supernatural event proving Jesus' divinity. It was a demonstration that consciousness transcends physical death. Jesus had explained, "I could reanimate my body after crucifixion because I understood something your medical science is only beginning to discover. The body is a projection of consciousness, not the source of it. Change consciousness, and the body responds." I hadn't permanently left the body, I'd temporarily withdrawn. Bringing it back to functionality was simply a matter of reconnecting consciousness to form. He'd paused. Many beings across the universe can do similar things. It's not unique to me. It's a natural function of advanced consciousness. I did it publicly, dramatically, to prove to my followers that death is not final. Unfortunately, instead of understanding the demonstration, they made me special. They made the lesson about worshiping the teacher instead of learning what the teacher came to share.
For 2,000 years, Jesus had said, humans have been comfortable with images of me in robes and sandals. Those images served their purpose. They kept the teachings alive, created devotional focus, built communities of faith. But now, humanity is ready for deeper truth. He gestured to his luminous gray form. You're discovering you're not alone in the cosmos. You're learning that life exists beyond Earth. You're beginning to understand that consciousness isn't confined to biological brains. This form, what you call gray alien, helps bridge those concepts. It shows you that the divine and the extraterrestrial aren't separate categories. We're all consciousness expressing at different levels of evolution. The space I'd been in, that waiting area between life and death, was part of a larger structure. Think of it as a cosmic hospital, one of the gray beings had explained. Souls arrive from physical death. We greet them. We help them review their lives, not with judgment, but with love and learning. We assist in healing trauma they're carrying. We help them understand the lessons they learned and the growth they achieved. Then we support them in making their next choice. What choice? Some souls choose to reincarnate immediately, return to physical density to continue learning. Some choose to rest in higher dimensions, processing their experiences. Some choose to ascend to even higher frequencies of existence. And some choose to become guides themselves, helping other souls as we're helping you now. You spent 28 years watching deaths and seeing nothing leave the body. Why? I don't know. Because you were looking with physical eyes for physical phenomena. Consciousness transition is energetic, not material. It's like asking why you can't see radio waves with your naked eyes. You're using the wrong detection method. But I can see it now. Because your near-death experience opened your perceptual filters. You're no longer limited to five-sense reality. You're perceiving the energetic dimension that's always been there. And Marcus, you're not unique in this. Many people who have NDEs develop these abilities. You're joining a growing population of humans who can see beyond the veil. Why now? I'd asked. Why are so many people having these experiences? NDEs, ET contacts, spontaneous awakenings. Jesus's large eyes had seemed to hold galaxies. Because humanity is at a threshold. You can either awaken to your multidimensional nature and join the galactic community as conscious participants, or you can stay trapped in fear, materialism, and separation. The next 20 years are critical. We, myself, the Greys, countless other helping beings, are intensifying our efforts to wake humanity up before the window closes. What happens if we don't wake up? Then you repeat the cycle. Another few thousand years of dense physical experience until enough souls are ready to graduate collectively. But Marcus, we're hoping you'll make it this time. And every person who awakens, every person who shares their experience despite ridicule, every doctor like you who dares to speak truth to their colleagues, you're all tipping the scales toward awakening.
The first week after my NDE, I simply accepted what had happened. No more arguing with myself, no more dismissing it as hallucination. I had died. I had met Jesus in gray alien form. I had seen Lisa. I had been given a mission to return and teach. Whatever the cost, I would honor that mission. The second week, the grief came. Not for Lisa. I knew she was okay now, but for all the years I'd lived in the cold prison of materialism, for all the patients I'd failed to truly comfort because I didn't believe their consciousness would continue, for the bitter, angry version of myself that had emerged after Lisa's death. I cried more in that week than I had in 3 years, releasing, letting go. making space for what I was becoming. My senses continued changing. I saw death differently, saw the guides coming, saw the souls leaving, saw the transition as graduation instead of tragedy. But more than that, I began perceiving energy fields around living people. Auras, some might call them. I could sense emotional states from across a room. I knew when someone was about to code seconds before the monitors showed it. My colleagues noticed. "Rivera's intuition has gotten scary good," I heard one resident whisper. It wasn't intuition. It was perception. I was seeing reality more fully than I ever had. I began actively working with what I'd learned, channeling healing energy like Jesus had shown me, practicing the love frequency technique, meditating daily to maintain connection with the higher dimensions. Some healings worked dramatically, others were more subtle, but I was learning to be a conduit for something larger than my medical training had ever acknowledged. My colleagues' attitudes toward me shifted. Some were curious, some were concerned, some were skeptical. But patients responded to the change in me. Families felt calmer in my presence. Dying patients seemed to transition more peacefully when I was attending them. Dr. Chen finally pulled me aside. "Marcus, what are you doing? What changed?" "Everything," I told him. "Absolutely everything." I was no longer Dr. Marcus Rivera, materialist physician. I was consciousness experiencing a temporary human incarnation, using medical knowledge in service of a larger mission. My identity had fundamentally shifted. I wasn't my body. I wasn't my career. I wasn't even my thoughts. I was eternal awareness, currently focused through this particular lens of experience. And that awareness would continue long after this body failed. I understood now what I was meant to do. Continue working as an ER doctor, but with a different understanding. Be present for deaths, not as failures to be prevented at all costs, but as sacred transitions to be honored. Teach those who were ready. Plant seeds of truth for those who weren't. And most importantly, help people lose their fear of death. Because fear of death is the root of so much human suffering. It drives the pharmaceutical industry's futile attempts to extend life at any cost. It creates the denial that prevents families from letting loved ones die with dignity. It spawns the materialism that insists consciousness ends when brains stop working. If I could help even a handful of people understand that death is not the end, the mission would be worth it. I started training as a death doula, someone who supports people and families through the dying process. I held space for difficult conversations. I shared my NDE experience carefully with those who seemed ready. And I continued practicing emergency medicine, but now as a bridge between worlds, someone who could honor both the medical protocols and the spiritual reality. Someone who knew that sometimes the greatest healing isn't keeping someone alive, it's helping them transition peacefully.
3 months after my cardiac arrest, I was sitting with a dying patient named Maria. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Days left at most. She was terrified, absolutely terrified. "Dr. Rivera," she whispered, gripping my hand. "What happens after? Is there really a heaven, or do we just end?" I pulled a chair close to her bed. Her family had stepped out for coffee. It was just us. "Maria, can I tell you what I learned when I died?" Her eyes widened. "You died?" For 8 minutes and 42 seconds, my heart stopped in this very hospital, and I went somewhere. I saw things. I learned things that changed everything I thought I knew. "What did you see?" "I saw that consciousness doesn't end when the body does. I saw beings of light. Some looked like angels, some looked like what we'd call aliens, waiting to help souls transition. I saw my deceased wife, healthy and happy, continuing her journey in a different form. And Maria, I met Jesus. Not as the paintings show him, but as pure consciousness taking a form I could understand. Tears streamed down her face. Did it hurt? The dying? The heart attack hurt. The dying itself? No. It was like taking off a heavy coat I'd been wearing my whole life. There was a moment of confusion, then relief, then wonder. And Maria, I wasn't alone. None of us are alone when we die. They come for us. The guides, the loved ones who've gone before, they make sure we don't get lost. My mother died 5 years ago, Maria said. Will she be there? Yes. I'd bet everything on it. Death isn't separation, Maria. It's reunion. You're going home. She squeezed my hand. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. I'm still scared, but less. Less scared than I was. That's all I can offer. Truth, and the knowledge that you're loved, you're eternal, and consciousness continues. The body is just temporary. The real you, the awareness, the love, the essence of Maria, that never dies. She died 2 days later. I wasn't there for the actual moment, but the night nurse told me she went peacefully, with a small smile on her face. It was strange, the nurse said. Right before she passed, she looked at the corner of the room and said, "Mama, you came." But there was no one there. I smiled. There was someone there. The nurse just couldn't see her. Over the following months, I had similar conversations with 11 more terminal patients. Each one of them died more peacefully than they would have without the knowledge I shared. Families started requesting me specifically. We heard Dr. Rivera has a gift for talking about death. Can he be the one to explain things to our father? Some colleagues were supportive. Nurse Sarah pulled me aside after one particularly moving death. Dr. Rivera, I don't know what you're doing, but it's helping people. Don't stop. Others were skeptical. One of the senior attendings muttered that I'd gone soft and lost my edge. But I didn't care. I knew what I knew. I'd seen what I'd seen. And slowly, carefully, I began sharing the full story with those who seemed ready. Dr. Chen was the first colleague I told everything. We were having coffee after a particularly brutal shift where we'd lost 3 patients. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. What happened to you during those 8 minutes? Really happened? I took a breath. You're not going to believe me. Try me. So I told him. All of it. The gray beings, Jesus in alien form, Lisa's continued existence, the teachings about consciousness and death. I expected him to laugh, or worse, to file a fitness for duty report. But he was quiet for a long moment. Then, my grandmother died last year. The night before she passed, she kept saying she saw her deceased husband standing at the foot of her bed. We thought it was the morphine. But what if it wasn't the morphine? I said gently. She saw him. They come to escort us across. Your grandmother knew she wasn't going to be alone. Chen's eyes were wet. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Within 6 months of my NDE, 3 other medical professionals at Phoenix General had heard my story and started opening up about their own unexplainable experiences. A respiratory therapist who'd seen a patient's deceased daughter appear at the moment of death. A physician assistant who'd had her own brief NDE and seen similar gray beings. A hospice nurse who'd witnessed hundreds of deaths and knew, just knew, the consciousness continued. We started meeting informally, a small group of healthcare providers who'd glimpsed beyond the veil and were trying to integrate what we'd seen with our professional roles.
We need more of this, Sarah said during one meeting. Medicine has become so focused on preventing death that we've forgotten how to honor it. Maybe that's changing, I said, one awakened healthcare provider at a time.
Let me speak directly to you now. If you're watching this video, you're afraid of death. Or you're grieving someone who died. Or you're searching for truth that your churches and doctors haven't been able to provide. I understand. I was where you are. I was the skeptic. I was the materialist. I was the one who believed death was obliteration and consciousness was a biochemical accident. You are not your body. Your body is a temporary vehicle for consciousness, like a car you drive for a while and then trade in for a newer model. When the body wears out, when the organs fail, when the heart stops, you don't stop. The awareness that's reading these words right now, the consciousness that's hearing my voice, the sense of I am that has been with you since childhood, that never dies. Death is a doorway, not a wall, a transition, not an ending, a graduation to the next level of existence. The beings we call aliens, angels, spirit guides, they're real. They exist in higher dimensions, working to help consciousness evolve. They're present at every death, ensuring no soul crosses alone. They're available to every person who opens their awareness to perceive them. And Jesus, the figure billions worship, the teacher whose message was corrupted by institutional religion, he's not who you think. He's not a distant deity demanding worship. He's ascended consciousness, actively working with humanity and countless other species across the universe to facilitate awakening. He can appear in whatever form serves the person he's helping, sometimes robed and familiar, sometimes as pure light, sometimes as a gray extraterrestrial. The form doesn't matter, the message does. You are divine. You are eternal. You are loved beyond measure. Your churches tried to teach you this, but they got it wrong. They made Jesus special to keep you feeling small. They made heaven distant to keep you dependent on their intercession. They made death terrifying to maintain control. But the truth is simpler and more beautiful than their doctrines. You are consciousness, experiencing physical reality temporarily. When this life ends, you continue. You review what you learned. You heal what needs healing. You choose your next adventure, and you're surrounded by love every step of the way. I died and came back to tell you this, not because I'm special, because I was desperate enough, broken enough, ready enough to receive the message, and now I'm passing it to you. If someone you love has died, know this, they're okay, better than okay. They're continuing their journey in a form you can't see from here, but they're aware, they're growing, they're still connected to you through love. If you're afraid of your own death, practice this. Close your eyes and imagine consciousness as light that can never be extinguished. Your body is like a bulb that light shines through. When the bulb breaks, the light doesn't disappear. It simply shines elsewhere. If you work in healthcare, start paying attention to what you've been trained to ignore. The deathbed visions your patients report, the moments of impossible recovery, the sense that something beyond biology is at play in healing and dying. Leave a comment below if you've had your own experience with the other side. Near-death experiences, deathbed visions of deceased relatives, encounters with beings of light. Your story matters. Your testimony adds to the collective awakening. If you want more stories like this, stories of people who've crossed the boundary between life and death and returned with truth, subscribe to Stories of Light and hit that notification bell, because I'm not the only one. Thousands of people are having these experiences. Millions are ready to hear them. The old paradigm is dying. The paradigm that said we're alone in the universe, that consciousness ends at death, that humans are the pinnacle of evolution. A new understanding is being born. We're multidimensional beings, part of a cosmic family, loved and guided by consciousness that transcends form. Death is not your enemy. Fear is. And you don't have to be afraid anymore.